So I'm going to go to a couple of other questions here. One from Amy Yee. There's a lot of pushback in journalism about representation and misrepresentation and who gets to tell which stories. Do you think that editors and management will change their ways? Will they be more open to authentic, complex stories instead of oversimplified and sensational ones? I hear from many people, including readers, that they don't want those sensational stories, yet editors seem to think they do, even though they're far from what's happening on the ground, sitting safely in their offices in New York or DC or wherever. Thank you.
I can speak to this as just as a white girl named Karen who did a story about race last week with this woman, an African-American economist, and she was researching innovation, and the way she came to her understanding of the problem, this economic problem, was mostly because of her experience in Russia, studying in Russia, and some of her experience with desegregating schools as a kid. And we got a lot of push to just be like, oh, Russia's too complicated. Like, let's just go to the thing, because the story or the paper she wrote was about race. And I think by far, in my experience, the best way to get stories that are pitched, that are nuanced and that are told with nuance, is to have people in the room with that sort of lived experience. There's just a huge difference in what stories come in and how they're told. If you do happen to be telling a story about someone with a different lived experience, I think it's on you as a reporter to be a really, really, really great listener. And to really, so that my co-host and I just really heard her not talk about desegregation and mostly talk about Russia. And so we really, really fought with our editors to we won't do it. We won't reduce her to just that one thing, because it's not actually the true story of her. So I think you have to be really attuned to the subtleties of what they're trying to tell you if it's not your lived experience, and then is where you can be getting gut checks. But I mean, the number one best way to do this is to have people in the room who've had that experience. There's just no real substitute for that.
Yeah, I'll just second that and say that on Rough Translation, we've learned, and when we do make a policy of sort of any time we're talking about any place, we're playing it for people from that place, and making time to hear their feedback, because that's just so important to get that nuance and to understand how it's going to be heard.
Sebastian, any thoughts as a photographer, how this plays out?
I mean, pick your editors well. It's as a freelancer, it's hard because you are subject to where you're to selling your story. But if you want to do great nuanced work, find organizations and editors who do great nuanced work. And Rough Translation would be top of the list. And just, I don't know I think I told Karen and Gregory this, but to your question, or to your point, Gregory, about what would people think from the country, Kurdish Iraqis are obsessed with this story. And I get emails still being like, when is Hollywood gonna make this movie? I get it like at least, it used to be 5 times a day. Now it's like once every other month. Someone's like, I want to see this in a movie form. It's amazing.
And what's the answer?
Once the pandemic's over, I'll talk to some people.
Okay. But I mean, has anybody ever approached you about it becoming a movie?
No, some documentary film company approached me to make a documentary about it, but it wasn't a good fit.